society during medieval times, life was a big web of duties and obligations. Feudalism is a system of promises that governed the relationship between lords and vassals. Its basis was land and describes bondage and social control. It initiated a social progression to authority of land and different property or benefits in land. Feudalism started in 1066 when William the Conqueror rewarded his knights for their victory in the Battle of Hastings by giving them huge estates of land. Feudalism's influence strengthened and to some extent was accepted as an essential part of culture in Europe. In Europe's feudal society, everyone had a place in the social hierarchy. Kings and queens were the greatest lords of Europe. They were found at the very top of the hierarchy. Nobles followed below them as vassals of kings and queens and lords of lower-ranking nobles and knights. After them were the vassals, who served their noble lords in exchange for land. The price of a vassal's power was allegiance of their lord. They took leadership positions in their local area and served as advisors for lords in feudal court. Vassals and lords were connected by a fief and had mutual respect for each other. Finally, peasants filled in the bottom of the triangle. They owned no land and were basically not part of the feudal system. Many of them worked on land owned by nobles or vassals. To be vassal and lord, a noble and a knight had to go through the homage ceremony and create their feudal bond. There are two key elements to a feudal bond: homage and fealty. Homage was the acknowledgement by the lord of a vassal's tenure. Fealty was an oath of allegiance and pledge of service to a lord. To create a feudal bond, the homage ceremony required a few steps. First, a vassal knelt before his lord and placed his hands between those of the lord as a sign of subordination or servitude. The lord then raised the vassal to his feet and kissed him on the mouth to symbolize their social equality. The vassal recited a predetermined oath of fealty, and finally the lord conveyed a plot of land to the vassal. In a feudal relationship, both lords and vassals benefited from each other. They also had responsibilities that they had to commit for each other, such as the lord's obligations to his vassals. For example, the lord had to send help to his vassal if they were under attack by the enemy. The lord had to protect his vassal and provide them with a plot of land. They had to be fair to their vassals. He could not cheat or punish them without a reason. The lord was expected to treat his vassals with dignity and avoid making unjust demands on them. However, the lord could file suit against the vassal in feudal court to deprive him of his fief if he did not follow the lord's orders. Therefore, it was a pretty fair deal. Just like the lord, vassals had obligations of their own. A vassal was a knight who promised to support a lord in exchange for land. Vassals had to fight with the lord and serve him when he went to war. A vassal was obliged to defend the fief from invasion and fight for a specified number of days in an offensive war. The vassal was also required to give their lords money on special occasions and give them food and shelter when they came to visit. Vassals were given socage, or tenure, in exchange for their duties. Others received scutage, which was money in place of land. The vassal was able to cut all ties with the lord if the lord abused them or could not maintain his responsibilities. Just like everything that rises, feudalism fell in the 12th century. It was caused by the revolt against high costs of the feudal arrangement by lords as vassals and their own vassals. It was culminated by the Magna Carta, a constitutional document sealed by King John to signal the end of feudalism.